Welcome, everyone, to a Friday edition of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning into the show throughout this week and, of course, today. Go ahead, click that subscribe button if you have yet to do that. And comment, rate, give us a like wherever you are viewing or listening to today's show. We're on YouTube and, of course, wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and Apple as well. And then while you're at it, of clicking all these subscribe and like buttons, go ahead and give us a follow on social media. Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, of course, the major places we are distributing, hopefully, some fun and entertaining products to you guys. And we have a lot of entertaining and stressful, confusing, mixed emotions to get through today, because we have a Drake men's basketball victory to recap. We have a huge game to preview for the Drake men this Saturday for Des Moines hometown team weekend. And then the Drake women. Tough loss last night on the road against Bradley, but then a great opportunity against a in-state rival on Sunday to preview against UNI. So a lot to get to, as well as we'll talk a little Super Bowl, and not, X's and O's typical Super Bowl talk, but we'll talk a little bit about the Super Bowl that has me losing sleep already. I've told people that it is the worst, greatest feeling. I would love to have this feeling every season, to be honest. But it raises that blood pressure. It makes you lose sleep. And you're counting down the days. Every time I open up my phone, something about the Super Bowl, something about the Seahawks, something about the Patriots, just making me nervous and excited and hyped. But we have a lot to get to. But before we do any of that, first and foremost, need to give a huge thank you to the people that make this happen. And that is Kelly's Little Nipper. Jeff and his crew have been amazing people, and it's so fun to tell people about the relationship our show and Kelly's Little Nipper have, because it is, I worked, 5 years at KXNO, 5.5 years at KXNO, and I got to see a little bit of the sales side of meeting, great local businesses, and it did feel very corporate. This feels like just great family friends, honestly, which Jeff is that to me, where I remember going there with my dad after, playing around of golf. And then he's just always been supportive at my time at KXNO. And then especially when I decided to start this crazy dream of doing the Media Row podcast, jumped on right away. But enough about my relationship with Jeff and Kelly's Little Nipper. I want you guys to go build your own, because it is a wonderful place to do that and meet great people, great food, great drinks, and even better community. Those are the three keys. We're going to talk about a lot of keys in today's show. Those are your three keys for Kelly's Little Nipper. And here's the thing. If you guys haven't been there, I want you to go down there for Des Moines hometown team weekend. Whether you're going to the Drake men's game on Saturday or the women's game on Sunday, or hell, both, go and pregame at Kelly's Little Nipper. Tell Jeff and the folks there that Media Row sent you, and just experience it all for yourself. 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines is where you can find Kelly's Little Nipper, and just have a great time. Be safe, but have a great time. 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, Kelly's Little Nipper, a proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So let's jump into it, starting with the game we were live in person covering Wednesday night as the Drake Bulldogs get their third consecutive victory. What we were asking for this whole week. On Monday's show, we talked about the importance. You're playing Evansville, not a great team, a team that gave you fits earlier in the season. But this team has grown. I mean, look at, they beat Murray State. They went on the road and beat Indiana State and looked convincing when they beat Indiana State, even though that team gave them struggles earlier in the conference season. This team is growing and building. I would love to say that it was convincing. It was confidence boosting. It was another one of those wins where you're going to have mixed emotions. And that is because for 31 minutes of this game, Drake looked lost, out of sync, just not gelled. All the major issues that every time Drake goes on a winning streak, and a 2-game winning streak, because that's the longest they had prior to now, you're sitting there going, it just doesn't end. They can't get over that hump of stacking together plays, stacking together momentum, and most importantly, stacking wins. They just can't do it. And that's how you felt for 31 minutes. And then about 7-8 minutes left in the second half, this team turned it on. They battled through, they persevered, but it was very stressful. So let's just begin at the tip-off. And once again, I have written down from my notes at the game. So this is the notes I have live in the moment, where I just write down the first thought that comes to mind with what I'm seeing. And I have down old dogs, same tricks. And what I'm meaning by that, and I wrote this down with 12 minutes to go in the second half. So Drake's struggling. They're down by as much as 19 at this point. And it's because these slow starts just continued to hurt Drake. And now Drake got the victory. They were able to persevere. They were resilient. Love to see that. That is what you want to see from a team that struggled. But here's the thing. How many times do we have to talk about these slow starts? Drake was down 36-30. And what is crazy is teams are outscoring Drake 101-100 in the first half in the last 3 games. The 3 games Drake has won, they're getting outscored in the first half. They just looked out of sync. They don't communicate defensively. There's something defensively that just doesn't click right away, which is so weird. And it definitely wasn't clicking on that side. There was no juice with this team, no momentum. It was a tough watch in that first half. I'm not going to kid you guys. It was a very tough watch. And I saw Alyssa Hurdle, who writes and covers Drake for the Des Moines Register. She explained it really well in her article. Go check it out on the Des Moines Register. But she said this team looked like a shell of itself in that first half. And that perfectly sums it up. It looked like the team that struggled against Evansville a month ago. Or I guess, I don't even know if it was a month ago. But it feels like a month ago. This team didn't look at all like the team that came out and stacked up 44 points against Murray State in the first half, beat Murray State. Didn't look like the team that just battled and convincingly beat Indiana State. It looked like the team that just didn't show up against Illinois State in the second half. Didn't show up against Bradley at all. There's no... And this team wants to be out there. They want to win. But I really have a hard time trying to explain that, no juice, no energy. There wasn't that fire, that want in that first half. And Evansville was the exact opposite. Just took advantage of all the holes Drake was leaving. Everything came easy for the Purple Aces. They shot 11 of 22 from the three-point line. Their season high, which came in their second game of the year. I wish I would have wrote down the college they did that against. But the second team, a Podunk team, they put up 15 three-pointers, and they go 11 of 22 against Drake. And mid-range shots wide open, too. And Coach Henderson talked about in the post-game press conference, and we'll play a clip of Henderson and Andrew Aaliyah as well today, but he talked about how they were assisted field goals too. So they are just moving the ball way better than Drake is reacting to what Evansville is doing. But then that second half team comes out. You go down into the locker room by 6, and it's a tough watch. I mean, I saw people leaving the Knapp Center. Overall, the crowd was really good at trying to build that energy, even though it was a tough watch. But you had some people leaving, and it was just because there wasn't that energy in the building and on the floor, most importantly. But this team continues to do it. I don't know what Henderson's magical sauce is. I don't know if he does the whole Space Jam where they have Henderson's secret stuff and every player then gets hyped and goes out there. Because, I mean, Drake for 31 minutes didn't look like the better team whatsoever. Looked like the team that had one win in the conference, not Evansville. They were down by as much as 19 with 12 minutes to go. Evansville started the second half a perfect 9 of 9, 5 of 5 from 3. It looked like nothing was getting adjusted. Nothing was changing. Henderson had to burn 2 timeouts in like the first 4-5 minutes of the game. He had 1 timeout. He didn't have to use it too, which is crazy. But then the final 8 minutes kicked in. And then that second half the second half dogs kicked in. That defensive intensity in the final 8 minutes, that is what fans need. I know it's tough, easier said than done. That's what makes those Billy Donovan teams, when McCollum and those Drake teams and what you're seeing from Iowa at times, when they can play full 40 of just crunch time defense. Same with Iowa State and TJ Ott's defense that he's had implemented in that system for about 5 years. It's what makes those defenses so impressive. It's because they can play a full 40 of just fundamental, but in your face, in your pocket defense. Drake did that for 8 minutes. You do that for 30 minutes. In these last 3 games, the season looks so different for the Drake Bulldogs. But that defensive intensity, number 1, is why Drake was able to persevere. Because they were able to force 8 turnovers in that second half of the total 11 that Evansville had in the game. And they were bad turnovers too, where they were just out of sync. They would get panicked because Drake would be right there. Jalen Quinn, Owen Larson did a tremendous job of really putting pressure on the guards. But then it wasn't all just Evansville making mistakes because of their panicked offense. I mean, Jalen Quinn, there was a highlight. Our guy Axel, who takes the videos for Drake Athletics and covers football and basketball for Drake. Tremendous work. Go follow him on social media. Captured a awesome video towards the end of that game where Jalen Quinn looks like a safety in the NFL, where he just reads the quarterback or the point guard to perfection and comes up with a huge steal on the sideline. And it was plays like that that just built this momentum and allowed Drake to go and win down the stretch. Also down the stretch, though, the offensive game by the starters can't be understated. The starters were absolutely incredible. The bench only scored 5 points. But you had guys, of course, Jalen Quinn got his. He just has that talent. He has that intensity and that one-track mind, it feels like, where he knows he can create his own shot. Quinn puts up his 5th straight 20-plus performance. But you had guys like Andrew Aaliyah, who goes out there and hits some really crucial shots down the stretch. He puts up a career-high 19 points. Eli Shetler had an amazing game, again hitting huge threes down the stretch. That and 1-3 that I think made the Evansville lead down to 1. But he hit that and 1-3 in that second half, late in that second half, and the Knapp Center erupted. I mean, the roof was about to come off. So the starters played tremendous. In that the final 8 minutes, that is basketball. That is Drake basketball. That is the Henderson system he has talked about, he's preached about, he's told us that he knows this team can play. It was for 8 minutes, and they were able to do it against the Valley's worst team. You're going to struggle, though, if you rely on that against the better teams. And that is why I have mixed feelings. You love that they didn't give up, and you love that they won. Of course, like it comes off spoiled to complain and talk about these mixed emotions coming after a win. But it's fair. They won. You feel good about that. But way too out of sync for a team that has just beat Murray State and beat Indiana State and looks like they're turning a new corner. 31 minutes, they just didn't look like the better team whatsoever. Drake only led in this game for a total of 2 minutes and 36 seconds. There was a point in the game where I think it was at halftime, Drake led for 54 seconds. 54 seconds. And that was when it was 1-0. When it was 1-0 for about 2 minutes, I was sitting there going, oh no. That is never a good sign. But they led only for 2 minutes and 36 seconds. And you just can't afford these slow starts. You can, I guess, against Evansville, but they pushed you to the max. The worst team in the Valley pushed you to the max because of these slow starts. You're not going to be allowed to have a slow start against the top contending teams. Bradley coming up this weekend. Lost by 27 the last time you played that team because you started off so slow. Yeah, that isn't gonna fly. Murray State, you were able to score 44 points on in the first half. Illinois State, same thing. You were able to put up some points and keep it close. Belmont, you were up by 25 at one point. You have to start fast to beat these teams. You have to play a full 40. You can afford it against Indiana State. You can't afford it against SIU, Evansville. Look, even UIC, a team that is quickly moving up the standings. We talked about it on Wednesday. You can't afford to do that against UIC, as we saw, because Drake started off slow and lost that game, even though they had a tremendous second half in Chicago. Evansville should be proud in the way they played. And I don't mean that. I know sometimes that can come off so like patting a team on the head of like, oh, you guys tried when they're a bottom tier team. I don't mean it that way. Honestly, Evansville should be really proud in the way they came into Des Moines and took control of that game and really should have won that game. And Drake, again, to steal what Alyssa Hurdle said, shell of itself. They did not look like the better team. It looked like Drake was taking steps back in that first half or first 31 minutes. And it looked like Evansville was taking tremendous strides forward. Little disappointed in Drake. Proud of how they played, battled, won, persevered. Those last two games, that was just a different team that hit the floor. I know this can be looked as a trap game. I was worried about it being a trap game when they went to Indiana State. Being able to beat Evansville, you now put together your season high of 3 straight wins. You're still at home this whole week, and you have the rival in Bradley coming up. You put yourself in a good position. Even with the negatives we have talked about, you have put yourself in a good position. But before we get into our keys, here is Coach Henderson kind of talking about those mixed emotions that I think myself, the fans, the staff may have in that win, where you feel really good about the way the team persevered, but you are concerned about the other 31 minutes where they didn't look like the same team that just played, just won 2 straight games. So here's Coach Henderson.
It's a hard way to live. I mean, you can't do that to yourself too many times, and that outcome's not going to be the same, right? I mean, our group has showed an ability to bounce back, to be resilient, to never quit. And so I wasn't surprised. I wasn't sure we were gonna be able to get all the way home. But we do have good fight. We just need to be a little bit more ready to go at the end of the day. And do I have mixed feelings? I don't know if I'd say mixed feelings. I just know that's a hard way to live, and we got to learn from it, right? We got to learn from it, and we've been on the other side of that too, and we know how it feels.
So let's talk about the keys here for the Drake Bulldogs as they take on their rival in the Bradley Braves this Saturday in the Knapp Center. Des Moines hometown weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. Revenge game. Bradley right now, they have won 4 of their last 6, but they have lost 2 of their last 3. And right now, the offense for Bradley kind of struggling. I mean, multiple games shooting around that 33 to 35% for the game. Johnson, one of the best guards in the league, getting to maybe 11, 12 points. No one is getting over 12 points in those losses. But they are coming off of a 5-point loss at UIC. We know how good UIC has been lately. And in this month of January, you're getting a Wardle coach team pissed off coming to Des Moines. Going to be dangerous. So here are my keys for the Drake Bulldogs. My first one, I know usually coaches talk about don't pay attention to the other team. Treat it like every other game. I want Drake to treat this game differently. Remember the pain that Bradley forced on the Bulldogs. Remember how disappointed and how depressed Des Moines was after that loss, where everyone was questioning everything at Drake. Losing by 27 points, worst loss I've seen and worst performance I've seen from Drake since the Giacoletti years. Remember that. And then go out there and use that to your advantage. Revenge game. I want this team to remember that and treat this like it's a revenge game coming into the Knapp Center. Then secondly, slow starts. Can't afford a slow start. This is a crazy stat that I found. In their last 3 wins, Drake is outscoring opponents in the second half 159 to 129. 30-point swing. In the first half, Drake is getting outscored 101 to 100. That is a crazy differential. Crazy. You can't afford these slow starts. Bradley showed you a few weeks ago what happens if you start slow against them. And honestly, I know Bradley has lost 2 of their last 3. I'm not paying attention to that. I am remembering what happened a few weeks ago. Number 3, have to have impact from the bench. Carr has been impressive. Thomas has been impressive coming off of the bench. Gotta get in the box score, though, with points. And they usually do. I think against Evansville, that was the first time where we've really seen Thomas and Carr struggle in this month of January. They only put up, the bench as a whole, only put up 5 points. The rest of the load was on the shoulders of the starters. Jalen Quinn has that ability to take over. It's fine when you play Evansville and Indiana State. Going up against these top contenders, need the bench. You need those role players to play in their position and take advantage of their opportunities. And then last key, just smarter choices with the basketball. Too many odd turnovers, especially from your leader in Jalen Quinn. Jalen Quinn, his scoring ability is incredible. We've talked about multiple times today of how he can just create and attack his own shots. One area he really struggles in, and we brought up why this now growth from Owen Larson is so important and being that true point guard for the team, is his vision and sometimes just careless mistakes with the basketball. Drake had 7 turnovers against Evansville. 5 of them were on Jalen Quinn. That is glaring, a major concern when you're going up against Bradley. So just being smarter with the basketball. And it's not just on Jalen Quinn. Jashawn Thomas, Quinn, Larson, there was multiple times these guys against Evansville, they would get on fast break. I circled this one earlier in the second half. Get on fast break. 5-on-4 because an Evansville guy was on the ground complaining about a no foul call. 5-on-4. You have Evansville backpedaling, and you can kick it out. You have an extra guy, and Quinn decides to take it in to the paint and tries to go 1v4, turns it over, and then Evansville gets an open layup on the other end. It's little mistakes like that that are going to cost you greatly against a team like Bradley. Going to be a lot of fun, though. If you have yet to make it to a Drake game, try to make it this Saturday. This is going to be the rowdiest the Knapp Center has been all season. The UNI Drake games, no matter how good or bad those teams are, that's always going to be the most packed games. This one I think will be rowdier. I really do. Because this is a rivalry game. This is a revenge game. And it has a different energy to it. We've talked about it with a lot of people on Wednesday night of just how important this win could be. Beat Evansville, and you're setting up to be on national television, CBS Sports Network. Hey, if you can beat Murray State on national TV, you can beat Bradley on national TV in Des Moines. Just hope you can make it to this game if you have yet to make it to a Drake game this season. Going to be a lot of fun. Drake taking on Bradley at home, 5 o'clock. CBS Sports Network, but of course, if you're not able to watch it or listening to it, follow it on the Media Row podcast on Twitter at Media Row Pod as we do our live game updates as well. All right, moving on as we previewed Drake men taking on Bradley. Let's recap Thursday night's game as the Drake women went on the road and fell to the Bradley Braves 85-79. Okay shooting by Allison Pullman's group. Red hot shooting by Bradley. My goodness. They could not miss from deep. Bradley shot over 40% in 3 of the 4 quarters. Drake shot under 40% in 3 of the 4 quarters. That is number one. The number one reason Drake fell on the road. Number 2 is because of Nelson at Bradley. Unbelievable night from Nelson, the senior. 30 points, a season high. 6 of 10 from the 3-point line. I've watched a lot of Missouri Valley basketball this year. I feel comfortable saying this. Nelson has the prettiest shot out of anyone I've watched. Alsma has the quickest release and a very pretty shot as well. Nelson, it's just smooth. It is so smooth. And she has the moves in the paint. She has the moves from 15 feet out. She has the guts from 30 feet out. She has such a smooth looking jump shot. And Drake saw it and wanted to see less of it. 30 points, season high, 6 of 10 from 3. Drake offensively didn't play terrible. I mean, overall, watching that game, it just really felt like just Bradley couldn't miss. It was their night. Because Drake overall didn't play terrible. I do want to give kudos to the Braves for their adjustments defensively. Because Vice put up 11 points in that first half. Missed one shot. And Vice, a true freshman, coming off of a really good performance against Murray State, looked like, okay, she is going to start building upon this. She has the momentum. She's got the hot hand. It's been Maggie Taylor previously with 4 straight double-digit games. It's going to shift over to Quinn, the starter right now. All of a sudden, just couldn't get a look. Didn't even take a shot in the second half, I believe, but only finished with 11 points. So kudos to Bradley there. And then Maya Wardle, yes, Brian Wardle's daughter, starting point guard for Bradley. Tremendous defense on Abby Alsma. Alsma played good against Bradley in Des Moines, and I think Bradley and Wardle especially, not to do that meme from Last Dance with Michael Jordan, but took that personally. Held Alsma to under 10 points, and this has been an Alsma who has hit over 20 points in the last 2 games, and against some really good teams, Murray State being one of them. I mean, Alsma is a hard player to hold to under 10 points. One, again, that quick release, but she's just so versatile where she can hit a 3 in your face like that, but she also can take it into the paint. And then also she can kind of have that 8 to 10 foot floater game that is just silky smooth and it's got that soft touch. She is incredible. And so it's really impressive when you see a player like Wardle be able to impact Alsma offensively the way she did. But again, watching that game, Drake, the women, they didn't look like they played that bad. Early on, the turnovers got to them, but they cleaned that up better than I thought they would, to be honest. They only finished, I think, with 12 turnovers, 12 or 13. And multiple times in the game, Bradley would go up by 10 plus, but then you'd blink, and all of a sudden, Drake goes on an 8-0 run. They would cut it to single digits. Just really couldn't get over the hump. The story of this game was Bradley's red-hot shooting and Drake just failing to get over the hump. One of those games where they would cut it to 4-5 points, single digits, and then Bradley would come down and just hit a 3, and then there'd be a turnover, and they'd hit another 3, and just like that, you're like, oh, all that work over the last 6 minutes gone is how it just felt. And it was a kudo to Bradley where they made some really strong adjustments. And I think Drake struggled with those adjustments, but also just a cold shooting night. What's been the biggest issue for this team? Inconsistent shooting. One day they're shooting incredible from 3. The next day they can't buy a 3. Look at the last time they played Bradley. They only made 2 3-pointers. So just a difficult team to score against. And when you have a team that's so hot and cold like Drake is, it just sets up for a long night. Again, thought this team played well multiple times where they put themselves in a nice position to try to take over, just couldn't get over the hump. And it doesn't get any easier. You would like to go, all right, get over Bradley. Let's go get a win and get that off our chest. Nope. Sunday. You're back home, which is great. Des Moines hometown weekend, great. Know the fans will be hyped. You have UNI. UNI is the best 3-point shooting offense statistically in the Valley. Drake, a team that just gave up 6 3-pointers to 1 player, has struggled tremendously guarding the arc. And then you have a Drake team, so they struggle defensively. And then you have a Drake team that struggles with the turnover game, going up against the best defensive team in the Valley. UNI is so lethal. And they're going to cause a lot of headaches for Pullman and her group. Nervous about this one, to be honest, because we know this Drake team has the talent to really perform and play with anyone. They were minutes away from beating Murray State. They were 1 or 2 clean possessions away from beating Belmont on the road. They can compete. But in both of those games, what were the glaring issue? Turnovers. They had 26 turnovers against Belmont. And yeah, we say, man, you clean up 2 of those and that's a different looking game. Drake also shot one of their best games, had one of their best all-around offensive performances in that game. We just talked about how cold and hot this Drake team can shoot offensively. So those turnovers are more concerning. You can't afford to turn over the ball against UNI. UNI coming off a big road win at Illinois State. That was a battle. Back and forth game, low scoring game. They've won 3 of their last 4, and listen to the teams they beat. Murray State, Bradley, Illinois State. Their one loss at home, Evansville. Odd, right? I saw that too. I was like, that doesn't seem right. Drake dominated, handled Evansville. But one of those off days for you and I look more at the team that beat Murray State, Bradley, and Illinois State. Going to be a really exciting game. 2:00 tip-off. We'll, of course, be there live with post-game interviews with Coach Pullman. Going to be a lot of fun. Really excited to cover that one on Sunday. Love the UNI Drake rivalry. I mean, I loved going and seeing both the men and the women play UNI. My dad and I, we would try to go see a women's game as much as possible too back in the day. So just it's always been fun. And again, if you have yet to see the women play, perfect opportunity Sunday. You get to see UNI as well. 2 birds, 1 stone. Going to be a great atmosphere. So try to get out there 2:00 on Sunday. All right. To get us into the weekend, let's have a fun discussion because you have the Seahawks, my favorite team, playing against the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 60. Yes, I'm counting down the days. Yes, I've been a nervous wreck, but I'm so hyped about next Sunday. I'm also a nerd, and I'm weird. I love uniforms and uniform discussions. Talking about how awesome it would have been if the Patriots wore their retros and Seattle wore their retros as well. Would love it. I love those conversations. Well, we had the jerseys announced and released for Super Bowl 60. Patriots, the home team. So if you don't know, every year the NFC and the AFC get to switch for who's the home team. It's not always who is the higher seed, who has the better record. I don't know why they do it. I'm okay with them doing the alternating, to be honest. But so the Patriots, they were the AFC team. They get to pick first. They can choose to wear their home uniforms. They can choose to wear their away uniforms. They get first pick. Patriots have a weird superstition. And I shouldn't say weird. I have a lot of superstitions as well with Seattle. I hate that everyone is picking Seattle. Superstition. But they haven't won a Super Bowl, I think, since they beat Carolina in the early 2000s in the Super Bowl with their home uniforms. They lost the Super Bowl when they were 16-0 against the Giants in their home uniforms. They lost against the Giants again, I believe that'd be 2011. In their home uniforms. And so they've won more with the road whites. So Vrabel and the Patriots keeping that tradition going, wearing the home whites. And they're wearing the white pants too, which pretty clean, to be honest. Even as a Seahawks fan, I'm like, okay, those go hard. Seattle then is wearing their navy home uniforms, which I love. I think they're fantastic. Did a full 180 on the Seattle uniform when they first came out in 2011, 2012. Hated them. Thought they looked like arena uniforms. I love them now. But so Seattle wearing their Navy. Seattle, here's the deal. They haven't won in the Navy a Super Bowl. They've played in 3 Super Bowls. This will be their 4th. They are 1-2 in those Super Bowls. The one they won was wearing their white away uniform against the Broncos. They lost against the Steelers in 05-06 and lost to the Patriots, of course, in 2015. So, a lot of uniform discussion, and I'm not even over it yet. We got to talk about these patches. Love the 50-year anniversary for Seattle. I mean, it's awesome. You got to keep that on there. You got to have the Super Bowl patch, of course. I'm not trying to be political. Not trying to be political whatsoever. The USA tag is way too big. Come on now. It has pushed the captain mark on Drake May's uniform up way too high where it looks out of place, and you can't even see the Super Bowl one for the Seahawks because it's on their gray stripe across their chest too. So it kind of gets lost. The USA tag is too big. Make it smaller and make the Super Bowl tag more prevalent. I don't know. You guys probably shut off this podcast by now because of this dumb, nerdy conversation. I love it. I love uniform discussions. Me and my buddies, when we're having lunch or hell, just texting each other in our group chats, we talk a lot about uniform. Of like, oh, wouldn't this be a sick matchup? And maybe that's like a generation that grew up playing Madden, where you get to pick your uniform, where that's in your head, where you're picking and you're deciding what looks cool, what you like, what would look visually pleasing between the two teams. I don't know. I know it's a dumb conversation. Just let me have it because I'm all over the place. I'm nervous. My head's spinning because Seattle is playing the Patriots in 9 days. So give me a little slack. But that will do it. Thank you guys again so much for a fun week. Make sure to go check out Kelly's Little Nipper, 1701 East Grant Avenue in Des Moines, proud sponsor of the show, as well as try to get out there and see one of these Drake games. Des Moines hometown team weekend, a fantastic weekend to catch some great basketball. Drake taking on Bradley at the Knapp Center. And then you have the Drake women taking on in-state rival UNI on Sunday. So try to get out there and enjoy some great basketball. We'll have you all covered, though, when we jump back on the airwaves on Monday for a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast.